allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all who have requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Wright.
Here.
Councilman Day.
Here.
Councilman Durango.
Here.
Councilman Delay.
Here.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Here.
Councilman Bennon.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Bland.
Okay, thank you. Sorry we started a little late, but we had some promotions we had to go through from the police department, and you'll be hearing about that in a little bit of the future. And I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments. So moved. Council President Riker, second. Councilman Giaconetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address, please state your name and address and keep it to 5 minutes. Anybody?
Cielo, 444 Midland Avenue. And I just wanted to ask, when I asked about the speeding on Midland Avenue, did anything come about that?
Your message was sent over to the police department. I don't know exactly what they did, but it was addressed
I
by
know
them.
they're coming around, but it's kind of the wrong time. It's like in the afternoon when everybody's already running around.
So what time were you looking for?
In the mornings is when they all just weep out and they try to avoid the light and...
Okay,
So-
could we pass that on, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll let them know.
Yeah, I'll have them look at the morning more than they
Okay,
did.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, no problem.
Second thing, I'm here for this Golden Ages.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we have nowhere else to meet, so we meet at the civic center. But the problem is a lot of us that can walk across the St. Mary's or park in the front we do. But we have a lot of handicapped that cannot park anywhere, and there's never any parking spaces available
In the back now we're
in
talking
the
about.
back, in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We had one senior, one husband and wife, came in at 8:30 and sat there from 8:30 so they can get a parking spot. I couldn't believe they did that, but they did.
Well, if
So, I
redevelopment
don't know
happens
what
and we
they
get a
can
garage
do.
built, we'll have plenty of spots to park in.
Yeah.
But right now, you're right, we have a small parking lot.
But it's full.
Part of the problem we're having, depending on what time the meetings are, if it's around the time that school's either being dropped off or let out, a lot of the Lennox parents are parking in the parking lot to park.
And I think they saw that too, and they said that they see a lot of the parents
It
and
is,
the
and I see
children
it too.
running across.
Because I come into the office usually around that time,
Yeah.
and there's nothing we can really stop on doing that. We can maybe reach out to the school and ask them can we send out a reminder that parking lot is saved for meetings that are going on at the Civic Center. I think that's the best way we can do it. The only other option is, in the future, there might be some more room on the right-hand side where the dentist's office is there, where the old dentist's
okay.
office. We're seeing where that's going to go, but there is a possibility that we might purchase that building. If that happens, that will become more parking or something, so that might help with that situation also.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Mr. Mayor.
Bruce Weiner, 35 James Terrace, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. I'm here because I'm very, very concerned for our teenagers about smoking and drugs. It was very disheartening to go to that meeting, the last drug meeting, to
Ms.
find
Reliance.
out that there was a study done that was really a waste of the money. Now, I know it doesn't cost us anything, but we do need to talking about our children. And I have some personal experience with this, but cigarettes leads to drugs. And the cigarette problem, I don't care what...
Well, let's stop right there. Unless you have facts to back that statement up, I can't
Well,
say...
sometimes, Mike, it's not about facts.
I
It's
understand,
about,
but-
Mike, sometimes it's about talking to kids and seeing what's happening and being aware of what's happening.
Mhm.
Okay? And
But-
I
but
can
you also need to
tell you
back up
that
facts.
I quite often see kids smoking.
Mhm.
And the policy for the
Where do you see them smoking?
by the staircase in between the pond hole and the parking lot.
So I know we've spoken, there is no law, statewide or local, that
Mhm.
says children cannot smoke. The state law says they cannot buy cigarettes. So
Right.
there is no way our police department can enforce a rule that says you're not allowed to smoke, because there is no rule, there's no law for that. And if we tried to pass that law, it would be overturned by the state. The state doesn't believe in that, and the federal government doesn't believe in that. Now, they can't purchase tobacco, but we can't
So
stop them
why
from
aren't we
smoking.
focusing on whoever's selling the kids?
We can, and we are. There is
My daughter says that they don't card her. She's
don't what, I'm
17
sorry?
years old.
They don't card her.
No.
Then you
She can buy, I don't know where she buys cigarettes, Mike.
That's something you should bring up with the police department, because that we can enforce.
All right, but I'm bringing it up here in public.
Okay.
All right, in my mind, it's the police department's job, and it's a safety issue. The buck stops here, someone said once. I don't know, I'm a president, I think. But the buck stops with you when it comes to the town, in my eyes. All right, and to the council.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's a severe drug issue and a severe smoking issue that needs to be addressed.
Again, I'm going to go back to the fact you said there's a severe drug issue, but
Why don't you ask the high school, Skip?
I have, and they come to those meetings. We have data that, from arrest reports and from surveys done with the children, that shows there's no question we have drugs here in town. That's not what I'm saying. But it's not an epidemic, if that's what you're saying, in our town at this moment. It's not. We are addressing it. There's just so much we can do with the size of the force that we have. I mean, we can't put a police officer in every school all the time. It's just not going to happen.
I just asked that the small convenience stores
I agree with you.
and the stores, the liquor store or whatever stores are selling cigarettes, you kill the supply, it's a good way to stop people from smoking.
And I do
Or you
agree
make
with
it
that.
heavy consequences.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Frank again to pass that message on to the chief, and we'd like to have a little watch of how they're selling cigarettes at all our convenience stores and places they sell. If they are underage selling to children, that's against the law. It's a big fine to the person doing it. And the child buying it is going to get a ticket for that also, because that is a state law right there. So that's something we can do, yes.
So if a kid buying cigarettes, so being in the possession of cigarettes is
No.
not illegal?
No, just buying them.
I have a question. The mission and the grant that we got from Coalition, is that limited to drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
Yes, but that doesn't mean,
We can ask for them to expand
Yes.
that.
Okay.
so what they have to do is, they'll do a survey and find out information to see if that is a problem in our town. Right now, the survey they did, and what he's talking about, it was a limited number of people that responded to the survey, but that limited number did show a very small percentage of people
With all
smoking.
due respect.
I understand that.
You're going to ask somebody, do you smoke? And people who smoke are not going to want to do the survey.
And I believe that too.
All right, so that was kind of a joke in my mind.
But unfortunately, with a federal grant, there are guidelines that we have to follow, and that is a guideline that is part of that grant application, that they have to do a study to figure out what the issues are in the town that they're giving the money to. One of the issues that we're working through right now is you have to have parents' permission on a signed slip to fill out the survey.
Right.
A lot of parents didn't even see the signed slip, and I know you brought this up. And so we're working on a way maybe to get that information to the parents, and that way they could sign the slip, and then the kids wouldn't feel reluctant not to take the test. So that's something they're working on now.
If there's data collection obligations, I don't know if I'm not familiar enough with the.
It's an outside source, an outside group.
But if data collection is one of the issues you need to show, if it doesn't have to be via survey, if in fact our police department, if the stats will verify that there is an issue from a purchase point of view, then we could approach it that way.
Okay. I have no problem talking to the chief about it.
Thank you.
No problem. And I agree with some of the stuff he said. I mean, if we can stop the selling of cigarettes to minors, I'm all for that. I agree with that.
Well, I have a problem with someone from the high school saying, here's the school line, you can smoke across the line, but you can't smoke here. That's what they
That's the
tell the
law.
high school.
Yeah.
Yes, but
But I will tell you, on our property, we've passed an ordinance on town-owned property, no smoking is allowed by any
is
individual.
that including the pond hole?
The pond hole, that's included, yes. But the stairs are owned by the high school.
Okay, so if they're smoking on the stairs, the police can't do anything
No.
about it.
Just
But they
on,
can tell the superintendent.
I don't think they're gonna go that far, but you could ask them to do that, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think they're gonna report outside school activity to the school.
If it's on school property.
Yeah, you'd have to talk to them about that, I don't know what the
So the
situation is.
stairs themselves are school
School,
property?
yes.
Okay.
But any town property, we've passed an ordinance, there's no smoking for anybody, doesn't matter of age.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Step up.
Ron Donko's, Riverdale Boulevard. Guess I'm up here again to say thank you to the Shade Tree Department, especially Randy Hinton, and of course the town. A couple months ago, there's a large maple tree near my house, across the street from it, actually. The large tree is about 75 years old, approximately, give or take, probably 2.5 foot in diameter. It's a shame, the tree was a nice maple tree. From the road, it looked great, you wouldn't want to do anything with it, but you go around the back side of it, it was all rotten. It had to be taken down. Once the leaves came on, the leaf little wind, more branches were breaking. Probably the smallest branch on it was 8 to 10 inches. The main problem with that tree, though, was all the high tension lines, the transformer, the telephone pole, or the power pole, all the lines ran through the middle of the tree.
And you know, that is their responsibility, they're supposed to prune those trees.
If the tree didn't fall in the road, it would have hit one of the other two houses. It would have pulled the electric wires out of 3 houses, one being mine across the street. It would have taken out a good portion of Riverdale Boulevard, the 2 side streets, including the pump house, number 1. It would have been a lot of damage. What I did, at one of the meetings here, council meetings, I took I spoke to Randy Hinton about it. Randy was right there, right away, took them both out the drawings, looked at the drawings, checked the tree out to make sure who owned it, and what they would have to do, took measurements and everything else. Randy with the town, had 2 jets in there, and 2 jets did a fabulous job. They really had their act together. They had it down in no time, real quick, no problem. And again, I'd just like to say thank you to the town, the Shade Tree, and Randy Hinton. Appreciate it. Thank
You know, all of our groups do a great job, including Shade Tree, you know, and I know when there's a call made there, that they take care of it, so. One of the many groups that does a good job in town.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Oh, can I wait 1 sec? Josh, if you want to come now, that's a good time to bring up.
Thank you, Mayor. Josh Benson, I'm with Tilcon, New York, over at the quarry, foot of Broad Street. Just came here tonight. We have established a scholarship program in the local communities around our quarries. This year being the first year for Pompton, and just wanted to let you guys know that we had picked a Pompton high school student, Evan Keating, for our first annual Tilcon scholarship.
That's great to hear, thank you.
You know, Tilcon understands, we have a robust internship program, and we understand it's very difficult to get people in our business. You can't sit behind a computer and run a loader. But we just wanted to give back to the community, and we're going to be doing this every year. And the scholarship winners are also eligible to apply for the internship program. So it works out pretty good.
Good. So, you know, we thank you for adding a scholarship. Anytime a local business puts a scholarship in for our community, that's a big deal for our children and for the kids in the high school. So we thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a win-win for us too, so.
Okay, and just to be aware, I know we also talked that we'll be having another meeting with the residents over by you,
Yes.
just to update everybody on how things are going.
Mhm.
And we haven't had any issues since we've met last time that I know of. I haven't been made aware of any. So that's a good progress moving forward on that too. So-
Yes, I actually was questioning about that in the hallway.
Oh, maybe I spoke too soon.
No, actually, it was good. Now I realize maybe I won't wear it till gunshot. Thank you.
Mr. Hinton.
Yeah, Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. I want to thank the gentleman from Tilcon, because I was the one who was questioning him, and he was very honest and up forward with his answers. So I want to thank the gentleman. Also, I want to thank Mr. Dunkos. I appreciate the recognition. Just one of 600 trees we've taken down, and we're trying to be fair to everyone. We try to give credit where credit is due. So I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council for helping Shade Tree do its work. I want to thank Kevin Boyle for helping us financially, giving us a little extra money to do more work.
And you've done all this without a bucket truck. How's that possible?
We could do a lot more, Mr. Mayor, if we had a bucket truck. But somebody's a little hard-headed in that area. So. We'll just, I am persistent, we'll just keep trying.
I'm working on it.
Okay, thank you. Also with Shade Tree, we were out today, me and Mr. Ortieri. It's nice that he's retired now. We were at 14 different locations. I think I sent you the locations on the website. The JCP&L is coming in, and they're going to be doing a lot of line trimming in about half our town. Worked out nice for Mr. Giaconetta's neighbors, because house on either side of him, trees are dangerous to the power lines, and JCP&L's contractor are going to remove both those trees. They're not town trees. We've been there to measure those trees a couple of times, and so the stumps will be the homeowner's responsibility.
And they know that?
And I think they know that, yes.
Yeah.
Or Frank will tell them.
I made him aware, yeah.
Yeah. While we were out, we were on the south end of town, on River Edge. There's one house left along the river. That gentleman was concerned about a tree that is laying completely across the river. I was going to bring it to Councilman Devine's attention in Warren Bennett, because they do a lot of river
They
checking.
just mapped, I think they just mapped up the rivers, right? Didn't they just recently?
I believe so. I think
I
they.
remember seeing an email about, so I don't know if that tree was on the map, but they did go out and walk the rivers to mark trees that needed to be pulled down.
1561 River Edge Drive. It's the last house on the river. It's right in the middle of the Morris Canal Greenway.
So the one south of Dawes Highway?
Excuse me?
There's two
Yes,
houses
yes,
remaining
the
on that
south
side.
of Dawes Highway,
South,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's right by Poplar.
correct.
Yeah.
And there's a tree completely across the river. Now it's starting to gather up debris. So, with our river cleaning,
Well, sometimes our DPW is allowed to go on the bank and pull it off.
that's a tough place for us.
Yeah, if they can't, then we'd have to get somebody in, yes.
So, while we were there, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot sunny day, 82 degrees, I guess it was today, biggest white-tailed deer I seen walking right down the road.
You're lucky to see nature like that, that's good.
Well, it's very unusual to see deer in the middle of the afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Then we went over to check a tree on Howard Street, by Councilman Branco's house. Another big doe walking down the street.
How do you know it wasn't the
2:15 in
same one?
afternoon. Excuse me?
How do you know it wasn't the same one?
That's a long way. We drive in a car, and we're a little faster than those does.
Okay.
So we do have an overpopulation problem, and we know that, and we'll address it as time goes on.
We are trying.
June 4th, in the Trends, there was an article from West Milford that they had with Chilton Memorial Hospital, they had a seminar on ticks and Lyme disease.
Put on by the hospital?
With the hospital, a joint venture with their health department and the hospital.
Okay. Sorry.
No, keep going, that's good news. Go ahead.
Correct. I just completed an environmental stewardship course through Rutgers, down at Passaic County Ag Extension here. And for 2015, there were 244 cases of Lyme disease in Passaic County alone. Out of the 21 counties, we came in 11th, about halfway, but that's a lot of cases of Lyme disease. So I would just like to tell the public at this podium, be very careful down at the fields with your kids, soccer, baseball, football, and lacrosse, to be aware of ticks. What happened in 2014, there was a big increase in acorn production, then, or an acorn drop. Then the mouse population in 2015 started to skyrocket, and they said for 2017, ticks will be at one of their highest. So I just want to make that known to the public. And
So the reason the council president and I were talking, we just met with the president of Chilton, and they're going to be doing some programs with us, and maybe that's a program that we can get them interested in doing here.
that would be good. Now, the professor that did our course, Environmental Stewardship, is Dr. Amy Roach. She's worked with Eric Devine, and you've probably known her. And she's given this is a Lyme disease presentation. I'll make copies for the Environmental Committee. And she's willing to come and to make the presentation to the public. She's doing it in libraries. This summer, she has a schedule. So if we can arrange it in the council or at a library, she's willing to do that.
Okay.
So it's a problem developing. Also, last thing is we had our Arbor Day celebration.
Yes.
And there was a picture in the Trends, beautiful picture of the mayor and the three recipients. But we want to give credit where credit is due. And Madeline Denty was instrumental in running that whole program, along with Megan Schultz.
Okay.
So there was no mention of the Shade Tree Commission or of them in that article. It was nice enough for Liz to give us another picture, and we're going to try to get that put in the Trends.
You should, let Trends know that,
Correct.
we didn't write the story, so
Right.
we just sent in a picture, and that's how it works.
But
I
I just
agree,
wanted-
they should be mentioned, so, write a letter to the Trends and let them know. These
We're
are
going to
people.
do that.
Okay,
But at this podium, I wanted to give credit where credit was due.
that's fine. All
Thank you very much.
right, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman DeWine.
Second.
Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes. Regular meeting minutes of May 24th, 2017. Closed meeting minutes of May 24th, 2017. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman DeWine?
Second, Mayor.
Councilman Baranco? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Bills and claims. Motion to approve the following bills as listed below. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Begg?
Second.
Councilman DeWine? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Petitions, we have none. Consent agenda whenever you're ready, Liz.
Does anyone wish to have any of the resolutions pulled? Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, and whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 17-116 through 17-128.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman DeWine, can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Giaconetti, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Separate action, we have none. Oh, yes, we do, we have one.
No, there's none for separate.
Oh, no, okay. Ordinances.
This is our first reading introduction. Second reading and final adoption will be on June 28th. Ordinance 17-13, and the ordinance amending Section 190-77 Design Review and 190-78 Appeals of the Borough Administrative Code.
Motion to approve ordinance number 17-13 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Begg, was that Begg?
It's Franco.
Franco? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Rankers.
Yes.
Councilman Venn.
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Baranco.
Yes.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1714 and 1715, we're going to table for more discussion. Oh, motion, can I have a motion to table both of those for more discussion? Council President Riker, is that a second?
Yeah.
Oh, Councilman Giaconetti? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, so those are going to be tabled.
Ordinance 17-16, an ordinance amending several administrative code provisions affecting fire prevention.
Motion to approve ordinance 1716 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Begg?
Second.
Councilman Branco? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Begg?
Yes.
Councilman Baranco?
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilman Jacanet?
Yes.
Second reading, final adoption, ordinance 17-12 has been posted on the municipal bulletin board. An ordinance amending section 520.3 of the administrative code.
Can I have a motion, please? A motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 1712.
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Branco? Councilman Jacaretta? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to speak just about this motion? Ordinance, I'm sorry, ordinance. Yeah, unfortunately,
Discussed two meetings ago, and it was introduced the last.
well, there's going to be a discussion on it, yes, so we'll let you know.
No agenda for the public.
Yeah, all right, well, we had a mistake here, so we'll have to address that, but we don't have agendas here now.
There's
You
one
guys-
here posted on the...
Yeah, you could have one, you could take mine here if you want it, and then I'll read off with Council President.
Couldn't get it all done between meetings.
This is a fairly minor change to the solicitor's permit provision that is contained in the administrative code that changes a little bit of language to make sure that, at least I believe it makes sure that the language of the code complies with the decisions of the United States Supreme Court concerning whether or not a permit is necessary in certain instances to solicit in a municipality.
Okay. Said simply.
That's what it is.
Compliance, essentially.
Okay, motion to approve ordinance 1712 for final adoption.
So moved.
I think I did, but motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Council President Riker? Second. Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 1712 for final adoption.
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman Devine? Any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Begg?
Yes.
Councilman Baranco?
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilman Jacanet?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Under my report, I'll start off with the motion. Motion to approve Lauren Simpson as a member of the Environmental Protection Committee, unexpired term 12/31/2019. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Council President Riker, second, please.
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, under my report, like I mentioned before, we met with the president of Chilton Hospital. She came in to talk about being more involved in the town. A lot of the residents of course, from Pompton go to Chilton for many different reasons. So they'd like to get more involved in the everyday running of things in town. That includes Pompton Day and any events we have. So, we're looking forward to having a working partnership with them, and maybe some of the things we just discussed about the ticks and the programs they offer, they could come in and help us with that. They do help us with other programs right now with our health department, but they'd like to have a bigger presence here, which is nice to see. I attended the first concert series down at the library. It was a nice night, a lot of residents there. The music was great. I couldn't stay long because I had an open space meeting that I'll get to in a minute, but it's the first of many events coming forward at the library. They do get a sponsor for each event. Chilton Hospital, like I mentioned, is going to be one of those sponsors, and they cover the cost. We purchased, between us and the bid, we purchased a new stage for them to highlight the bands that'll be playing up there. So all in all, I think I shout out to the bid for doing a good job of putting that together, the DPW for helping us move the equipment back and forth, and we'll be announcing the dates. Does anybody have those dates ready?
You have it.
All right, so you'll announce them.
Art's done.
We have 6 more events that, if you're familiar with the event and you'd like to come down and listen to some music, it starts about 7 o'clock, and Councilman Begg will have more information about that. We had a open space meeting talking about the idea of looking into the future of building more fields down at Joe Grill Complex, or Willow Field Complex, however you look at it. I'm sure Councilman Devine will report more about that. We did have an engineer come down and present some plans. This is a long-term project that we're looking at. You know, we have to see how we're going to fund it, where the money's going to come from, and so this is not going to happen in the next couple of months, but hopefully in the near future, we can have something come out of that. I had some meetings with redevelopment people, a couple different meetings about a couple different plans going on. There is a redevelopment agency meeting tomorrow. There will be someone new presenting a plan tomorrow for a different building. They will be here to present. The other buildings are moving along. It is a very slow process, unfortunately. There's a lot of twists and turns as you move along through this, and the developers have to get all their apples in line before they can really make a final presentation. But we're getting close. I will tell you that, we're getting close. There will also be a bid meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Civic Center, if anybody's interested in that. Let me see what else I had here. I attended a rec meeting, and I'm going to read off some information that was sent to me by Karen Murphy about some events that are coming forward. We have the camp program is moving along, and we're looking for sign-ups because we need to get numbers. I'm going to have to come back to that because I'm going to have to find that email, but I'll have some more dates and information for that. And that's my report. Council President.
I'd like to start by congratulating the VFW. Our Memorial Day Parade and service this year was really fabulous. We got very lucky with the weather. The attendance was wonderful. If you drive through town, you still see the flags that are flying. So thank you to them and everybody else who participated. I think, I don't know if we did an official count, but the consensus amongst those who attend the parade is that attendance was, seemed to be at an all-time high.
And rightly so. I mean, if you have the time, and it is for the veterans, you should be out there supporting the event. So, the crowds were out there. It was nice to see.
And in keeping with the patriotism theme, today is Flag Day. Many of you know that our flag was adopted on June 14, 1777. That's when the 13 stripes, the alternating red and white, and with the 13 stars was adopted. It was President Wilson who acknowledged Flag Day, but it wasn't legislatively signed into being until 1949 by President Truman. It still is officially not a federal holiday. But I'm just going to throw something out there. We were so taken with the kids and their Arbor Day write-ups and their presentations that perhaps we as a governing body or the schools can do either an art or a written contest to acknowledge Flag Day, because it still is when school is in session.
Well, we unfortunately had a closed session meeting early, but there's a normal the Elks Lodge does a Flag Day ceremony that was starting tonight at 5:30. Unfortunately, we couldn't make that.
Okay.
So maybe they would be privy to the idea of doing something like that.
To involve the, my concern is, many of you sitting here in the audience today were here for the Arbor Day. It's really great if there are ways we can.
And I think Councilman Blanco, didn't you say you were dropping your son off? He was going.
Yeah, he was going to be there because he's bridging the ceremony on Saturday, so.
The Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts are involved.
Yeah, they were there. They were there.
Okay.
And we usually go, it's just unfortunate this time.
Timing.
Yeah.
A couple of other things that I wanted to share. Today was Townwide Recycling Day. And as I drove around the community, it appears to me that our participation in recycling is dramatically up. There were so many cans in front of people's homes compared to when we first started this a few years ago. One, I want to commend everyone for participating. We know that the calendars are coming out in a couple of weeks, but we have a year to think about whether we can start thinking about revamping our schedules a
Yes.
little to increase the recycling and because as you recycle, you find you have much less garbage because you have much more recycling. And I think any of us who recycle do very much find that, because I had 2 recycling pails, but only 1 garbage that went out this week. So, who's DPW?
Me.
You are. Would you tuck that away so we can talk about, so we have time, so it's not a rush with the calendar for next year, to think about revamping that a little bit?
And one of the things we've already been in discussion with is any Wednesday that there's an extra Wednesday in the month, we would add another recycling pickup, because it's a dead Wednesday to begin with. So that we can do immediately starting.
Yeah, you and I have spoken about that together, but today it just sort of struck me when I saw the pails out there. Another couple of things, we had spoken, I think as Councilman DeLine had spoken, about incorporating a community garden into the in our community. And I think I may have said, I don't remember whether I said it from the dais or during our conversations, that the Laurelwood Arboretum could be, which is in Wayne, but it's the part of Wayne closest to us. So it's really just steps from the Pompton Lakes border, that they may be a tremendous resource. So what I did is I have their recent newsletter that just came out, the Friends of Laurelwood Arboretum. So I brought this to share with you because as we're trying to put together some experts, you see that they have a very loyal group of active gardeners and who are highly knowledgeable. The only thing I'm going to ask is that you share it with your fellow councilmen, Councilman Venin, because within this is they are a very new foundation, very much like our, the 501c3 that the Friends of the Library. And since this is a newly established foundation, just the last couple of years, they have a wonderful insert in here in terms of key ways that people can give once you have that 501c3 status. So if you don't mind, would you at least copy for him so he has it for the library folks? Okay, so that's this. There's something else that came across my desk. Passaic County is offering yoga in the parks, and they're offering, and it's free, and it's during the summer. And I have the flyer for you, Liz. It's sponsored by the Passaic County Board of Freeholders. There's a series in Garrett Mountain, and there's a series in Gophelbrook. So, one, I'd like to share it with our residents, because I think it's relatively new, so that they're aware of it if this interests them. But on a different note, we have a couple of great parks here that I know we don't have.
The recreation has yoga.
No, I know that, but their yoga is in the evening, right?
Well, at different times, yeah.
So what I was wondering is, I know we don't have much sway with the freeholders these days, but maybe they would consider offering that in one of our parks next year, so that some people up county and in our neighborhood could participate. So Liz, let me give that to you, and I don't know, you're the one who has the most contact with the freeholders, let them know. We'd love to share our parks with the yoga folks. Reevaluation. Kevin, how far along is it, would you say?
We're probably about a little more than a third finished so far.
A third?
If you go on the website from Trail Systems, actually has a map of where they've already been, what they've done. Oddly enough, I've actually gotten calls from people, residents, who said it's been a great experience. You know, normally we get phone calls that are never usually pleasant, but people saying how the individuals from the Trail Systems that come in was very, very professional, in and out in 10, maybe 20 minutes, depending on what they would have the conversation. And they felt that it's been a very fair process so far. So we've gotten a lot of positives so far from the community.
Okay. What I wanted to share is revaluation is not as slow as redevelopment, but it's a slow process. And we as a borough had approximately 150 notices come back to us, undeliverable for different reasons. And we had a student intern from William Patterson who's been working diligently with Kevin and some of the other folks in Borough Hall. And our goal ultimately was to get that 150 down to zero or as close to zero, so that anyone who owns property in the borough could have notice. And I got a text from the student, because the student happened to have been one of my students in the previous semester, that he has basically finished the project and got pretty close to zero in terms of, which I really am thrilled about, because it shows that we've acted proactively to really go about getting, since your feedback is so good, in terms of them being in and out and respectful, that we're really doing our darndest to try to get them into every home. So if for some reason someone is watching or sees this on the website or Channel 77, and they did not get a notice that we are in the middle of revaluation, please just reach out to us in Borough Hall so that we make sure that your house isn't skipped.
Let me just add to that, because right before I came to the council meeting, the gentleman came to my house. And I didn't tell him I was the mayor, and like you said, he was very polite, he did a great job, he was there maybe 10 minutes, it's all computerized, he did it on a computer. After he was all done doing the appraisal, the walkthrough, he said, please check the information and make sure everything you told me is correct, and everything I wrote down is correct. Told me how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and I signed off on it. The whole process took about 10 minutes, and the guy was very polite about it. So, and I did ask him, I will tell you this just in general, I said, how are things going in Pompton Lakes? He said the people in Pompton Lakes have been very nice, nicer than most towns he's been in. They stop, they talk, they chat with them, he said, and he really appreciates that. So that was nice to hear.
Oh, good. Councilman Begg is going to discuss this in much more detail, but we do have a concert coming up next week, so he's got the whole schedule. So it's Thursday, June 22nd is our next concert, for those of you who are trying to follow along. One last thing. There have been some fox sightings in town, and I know it was covered on the news, not ours, but covered on the tri-state news that they have of them. I think it was in West Orange or Livingston, and they went and they showed pictures of the fox. What I didn't know is, we talk a lot about chickens, we talk a lot about deer.
You can't have fox in your house, no.
But is that something, are you supposed to contact animal control when you see them? Or
No,
what is
they're common animals now, and one of the problems, I was just talking to our animal control officer on Tuesday, and she said one of the problems they're having with the fox is outside people feeding their animals, and that they're knowing that now and learning that, so they know that where there's houses, there could be outside food for cats or dogs, and that's why they're coming up to the properties more so than they have in the past. And he said it's just a reminder that you shouldn't be leaving bowls of food outside for your pets all the time, because it does attract other animals. But, as long as you leave the fox alone and they'll leave you alone. There was an situation, though, in Bloomingdale. It was read in the paper that a coyote did grab a dog and dragged it into the woods, unfortunately, and they lost the dog. So, the coyotes are out there, and they are starting to get a little aggressive, so we have to be aware of that.
That's my report, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have an email from a young student about the foxes that I have to find, but before we get to Councilman DeLine, I do have a letter from Congressman Freelandheisen to the Federal Emergency FEMA. I guess some of our residents wrote with some concerns they had with FEMA and about the new flood maps, and there was 6 points they brought up. He is addressing it to Mr. Robert Fenton, acting administrator at FEMA, wanting them to answer our residents' concerns. So they are staying on top of the fact that they reached out to the congressman, and now he's reaching out to FEMA to get an answer to their questions. Councilman DeLine.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got quite a long report, so please bear with me. I've been pretty busy the last few weeks. First, I want to echo our Council President Riker on the Memorial Day service and parade. It's always a great event, and we've always been lucky with a beautiful day, and this last month was no exception. Special thank you to the VFW and the groups who participated, and and Assemblyman Rooney, who came on no doubt what was a very busy schedule during that time. Flood Advisory Board met, as you mentioned, they have been in communication with Congressman Frelinghuysen, so it's good to get some responses back from him. They discussed some of the federal legislation regarding the flood insurance program, discussed some of the blockage in the down trees. I'm not quite sure if that one was specifically discussed or if that's pretty recent, but I'll definitely bring it to their attention. And I'm sure, Ed Merrill will know about it as well. One of the things that they discussed, Joe Cristiano, who's one of the board members, is doing, it's a climatology study. He's measuring flow rates of the rivers. He's measuring based on seasonal temperatures, things like that. It's a pretty interesting project, putting a lot of work into it. But I thought what was interesting was he mentioned that this is the wettest spring since 2014, and the flow rates are much higher. But 2014 had much more action stages, which had a higher snow melt that season too. Ramapo is getting the action stage more often, but other rivers not getting as close, mainly the Wanacue and the Quantic and the reservoirs have been low as helped. So I think what that does is it speaks to sort of, compared to the historical data, the work that the town has done on the rivers and the effect that even with the higher rainfalls in the past few years, we haven't seen the rivers rise as they have been before. So that effect has been bearing itself out in some of the data that Joe has been measuring. And a lot of the stuff he went completely over my head on, but it's a good project. On Friday, June 1st, I held the second training session for the Pompton Lakes committees. It was basically the same group that attended the first one. I did ask people that if they didn't attend the first one, not to come to the second one, because I just didn't have time to reiterate everything to be covered in 2 sessions. I know there are other committees, historic preservation being one of them, that do have interest, so I'll probably look for some opportunity to do something like that again in the fall for the committees. Again, the groups that have been through the training, they're starting to do more things on the website itself, so it's encouraging to see them take ownership of their individual pages and try to make it their own and do some different things. And I think it's, again, what we expected is people gotten used to doing it more, they're becoming more comfortable, they're becoming more adept, and it's helping to enhance the website even further. On Friday, June 2nd, I met with New Jersey DOT and Michael Baker International, who is doing the bike ped assistance program, which I mentioned. Kevin was there as well. At that meeting, we discussed some of the community, sort of the issues that we've identified, ways to do some traffic calming, such as on Midland Avenue for speeding, those kind of things that help improve safety, particularly for bicyclists and pedestrians. There is going to be starting to reach out to some people about being part of a stakeholder group, just to provide some technical information. Michael Sicatos from Passaic County Planning, somebody from our Transportation Management Association known as Transoptions, somebody from the police department, the school board, hopefully, those kind of things. In addition, there will be a public outreach component to this study process. We want to get input from the residents. We want to get that information out there, let them know, educate them. They are actually going to be coming to National Night Out as well, setting up a booth. I've already arranged that. So we're starting to be able to see that a little bit publicly this summer.
I do have some residents who reach out to me about biking when you have those larger groups of bikers that take up the whole street. Sure. And I feel that that's a concern with people driving. Yeah. So that's something.
It is. I mean, there are state regulations that a bicyclist is supposed to ride to the right as far to the right as practical, and they're only supposed to be single file unless they're not impeding traffic. So if they're going 2 abreast or 3 abreast or whatever, they're breaking the law. Those aren't the. I don't want to dismiss what they do, but those aren't the kind of bicyclists that we're necessarily trying to appeal to.
What happens if they are using our path?
Well, they are using if they're doing it legally and they're doing those kind of things, they're well within their rights to do it. A bicyclist has equal rights to the road as a driver, provided that they're following the regulations, traffic regulations. They're supposed to stop at stop signs just like any other vehicle would. They're supposed to stop at the red light and remain stopped until the light turns green. They're not supposed to ride on the sidewalks. If they're under a certain age, they're supposed to wear a bike helmet. So they do have certain rights and certain responsibilities as well. And if those bicyclists, which, again, the touring bicyclists, more or less, are breaking the laws, that's something that should be brought to their attention as we're able to do so. And again, this project isn't necessarily specifically for them. It's really for our residents, our children that want to make our streets a little bit safer, to do those kind of things, make it safer to walk into downtown, make it a little bit more pedestrian friendly. And that's really the crux of this study. Then Saturday, we had National Trails Day. Again, fortunately, we had great weather. I want to thank the Pompton Lakes Fire Department for helping us put up the bat box. Councilman Bagg was there, the mayor was there. Mayor was also there to cut the ribbon on the new trail, and Councilman Dunn and I don't want to forget him. He, as the other liaison to the Open Space Committee. And then we had Evan Kelly from the Pompton Lakes High School, gave a great presentation on bats, talked about, even though they have a specific role in the ecosystem, that they are wild animals and not to bother them, especially if they're going to be in the bat box. And talked about some of the diseases and why the bat population is dropping, and why we would want to do things like putting up bat boxes. And the Rutgers University will be now monitoring those bat boxes to, monitor the population and see how successful these kind of things are as part of their efforts.
I think one of his statistics from the kid from the school was that a bat in an hour eats how many mosquitoes? Do you remember the number?
It was like 1,000 mosquitoes or
1,000
something, which is,
mosquitoes in an hour.
So
that's a big number.
And I think the bat box can hold quite a few bats, so that would help tremendously for that area. The following week, I met, as Council President Riker mentioned, I am exploring the idea of a community garden in Pompton Lakes. There's a grant available through City Green, which is a nonprofit organization located in Clifton. They are providing $2,500 grants for people looking to start community gardens. So they've actually reached out to them. They've actually been very enthusiastic about communicating. They arranged a meeting with Councilwoman Hudson in Bloomingdale. Bloomingdale just recently started their community garden. They've gone through the same process. They're basically, hopefully a year ahead about where we are. They started planning previous year, and then they implemented it this year. So I was able to go out there, and with a Girl Scout who's working on a Girl Scout project, who's going to be assisting me in this as part of her project, we were able to meet with City Green and Councilwoman Hudson, talked about, the process that they went through, the ideas, some of the challenges. $2,500 is not going to cover it, so there is going to be a fundraising aspect to it as well. And I've had conversations with Council President Riker about those possibilities from different groups in town. So it's still in the early stages. The good thing is that City Green rather, isn't just, well, here's the money, go ahead. They actually do provide a lot of technical assistance. If we get the grant, which it feels pretty positive that we could, they're looking for communities to do these kind of things more than a competitive program. They do provide technical assistance on, where the sites can be, how to lay it out, how much material you need, how to lay out the boxes, those kind of things. So, fortunately, we're not just getting the grant and go off and figure out what you can do with it. We have gotten a lot of positive feedback and interest on the community garden. So once we know more about the status of the community garden, I think, we talked about doing sort of a public forum to kind of discuss that, how the program would work, garner interest, who would be actually willing to sign up, and I think that'll help us assist in our planning as well. And we'll need other participants more than just myself and the Girl Scout to really get this program running.
Some residents will call it a deer buffet.
Well, that's going to be a big aspect of it, is doing appropriate fencing to at least deter the deer, and that's what most communities are doing. Is fencing is a necessary part of that whole thing.
I would think maybe reaching out to the food banks from town.
Yeah, we talked about that, how to use that food. Council President Riker had a great idea about, rather than charging an annual fee towards having a box, instead having a portion of the crop yield being donated as part of that commitment of having a box. So again, those are the kind of things that we need to explore a little bit further. It's still getting going, but a lot of great ideas and a lot of great thoughts coming in. Then, as the mayor mentioned, we had the Open Space Committee. We were presented with a concept plan from Furrier Engineering on the Willowfield improvements for the ball fields, potential for the walking path. The committee Well, first of all, the engineering company did do a good job of doing the presentation, coming in prepared, talking a lot of things. The committee did raise a number of questions and concerns, which I think primarily, relate to the removal of the trees. And, you know, the engineer talked about some of the options to mitigate it and some of our requirements per DEP because of where the location of it is. So, you know, we'll see where those conversations go, but it seems like there are ways to make these kind of things work. And as the mayor mentioned, it is a long-term project, so there's a lot of planning to be done. There's not going to be a ball field up in the next few months. It will require money, it will require permitting, it will require a lot of planning. So the Open Space Committee will no doubt be very engaged in that. We also discussed the draft ordinance amending the Open Space Trust Fund. As you may have noticed, one of the ordinances was pulled. The committee understands the flexibility that's necessary at this point for that Open Space Trust Fund. It's very restrictive when it was created. The needs of now aren't the needs of then. So they understand that there's flexibility. However, they do want it to be respective and protective of the original trust fund, and we've had some conversations. I've had some discussions with Joe on how to do that, and that's why we're pulling it back a little bit, drafting some additional language that I think would you know, go towards that core idea of, you know, we want to be able to do more things with the trust fund, but still not become a piggy bank and not being potentially misused. And so I talked about the ordinance. We're also looking at tightening up some of the disturbing the peace ordinances. We're not quite in draft mode, but that has been a topic of discussion. We have a very general disturbing the peace. What that means is very arbitrary. There's no set time of day. There's no set noise levels. So those are kind of things that we'll be looking to do, at least in the next several months, of coming up with an ordinance that addresses that, makes it more specific, you know, that addresses those concerns by a lot of homeowners. Stormwater Management Committee met last night. They're planning a rain garden workshop in September. It's to provide free technical advice on how to plant a rain garden in the yard, what to plant, how large of a size you need based on the size of your house. So, you know, they'll be coming out with some more information on that, but it's a good, we're fortunate, very fortunate, with our flood advisory board to have people that are technically proficient in their fields. We have a water resources engineer and a landscape architect, so the idea of a rain garden, their technical expertise comes together very nicely for something like that, and that's something we can offer to our residents for free to a great benefit. And then the Lake Restoration Committee met right after that. We've reviewed some recent reports from Solitude Lake treatment. So far, Pompton Lakes is showing pretty good sign of the treatments from last year, which is a systemic treatment. They're still going to probably be treated at some point, but it's coming later in the season than it did last year. Twin Lakes, some of the Eurasian milfoil is already starting to pop up, and I think it was treated at the beginning of this month. You know, we'll know a little bit more from the report later on, but this year they're going to be doing the systemic treatment that we did on Pompton Lake last year. So hopefully that has a cascading effect in the following year to address some of that growth that we've been experiencing.
Also an effect is the fact that Moores is working in the river there and pulled out a lot of the weeds and muck in the area they're working.
That would probably have some benefit, because they obviously are not going in that area.
So they're pulling out all that silt on the bottom, which has all the weeds in it, so you're going to get some time, but it takes time to go back in.
Okay. That's it, man. Thank you.
That's it? You don't get to talk next week, because we talked too long this week. Real quick, I just have to pass on before I get to the next one, our rec director wanted. Summer camp at Hirschfield Park from 9 to 12, pre-K to 6th grade. Price includes T-shirt and ice cream. One child is $300, 2 children are $385, 3 children are $400. One of the teachers at the high school is the director. New before summer camp starts at Hirschfield Park, it's $20 an hour. We have a middle school camp at the middle school starting July 17th to July 28th, grades 7th, 8th, and 9th. You can choose 1 week or 2 weeks. 1 week is $75, 2 weeks is $100. Hours are from 10 to 12. Eileen Allen is the director for that. We have tennis camp and tennis lessons available. Field hockey. They're looking for donations of ping pong tables, Little Tykes equipment, and outside toys or kitchens. You can sign up for any of these programs online at Capture Point or contact Karen Murphy through the website or through Town Hall, and she'll get you hooked up with her information. Summer camp is filling up fast, so if you're interested in doing that, you should do that quickly, so we need to get counts and numbers. That being said, let's move on to Councilman Giacometto.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo also again with the attended the Memorial Day Parade, marched in it, and Bob McGrady and the entire VFW and staff, the town, everybody came out. It was a wonderful event. The police department, the fire department, everybody involved. Wonderful event. Again, kudos to everybody. Myself and Councilman Bennett were honored to attend the Pompton Lakes High School the other night, the scholarships senior award ceremony for the class of 2017. We were honored to present a couple of scholarships, and every year it seems to grow there. I know the other year with my daughter, and then now 2 years later, it's grown substantially and more. Even you had the Tilcon there that presented another one, their first one that they presented that night. So again, I was honored to give the 2 scholarships that night. Also attended the State Tree Commission. They had a total of 72 hours for the last month. And also, a side note, they are working on, for National Night Out, the Shade Tree is going to have a booth that night, and they're coming up with different plans where they're going to have, but just a note to everybody that night to definitely stop by that booth. They're coming up with something, so it'll be nice. The final thing we had before everybody came in, we were doing interviews for the police department, for captain, lieutenant, and sergeants. So we're a little delayed with that one, but we did hold that. I did get the month of May from Chief Augusto. We had a total of 1,888 calls for the month of May. Had a total of 22 motor vehicle accidents for the month of May. Motor vehicle summonses were 233. We had 3 DWI arrests, handled 4 domestic violence investigations. The Detective Bureau investigated 27 complaints, 12 subpoenas, and 10 warrants. They also conducted 13 background investigations for gun permits, 9 traffic raffle applications, 2 solicitor permits, and 10 background checks. Some of those are going to be probably for us coming up as far as our new personnel. We are looking to hire several patrolmen, since we lost a few, to bring it back up to the, where it should have been. So we're looking to do that. But that is all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. You're right, Bob McGrady and the whole group there does a great job with our parade. He's done it now, I think, for the last 40 years. He's been doing it for us. Is that right, 40 years?
That's got to be close, yeah,
I
30,
think
39.
39 or 40. So that's a long time to be doing anything, and we thank him. It's all volunteer. He puts on that whole program where there's some hot dogs and beer and soda at the end of the parade. It was a great event and a lot of people there, so again, we thank him for that. Okay, Councilman Benning.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I get a motion to approve the request of Pompton Lakes Recreation Department to close Lakeside Avenue from Romaine to Elks and Perrin Avenue on Sunday, September 3rd, 2017, from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., rain date Monday, September 4th, for Pompton Day. Police, fire, first aid to be notified, county to be notified for county roadways.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I have a second? So moved. Second. Councilman Bay, all in favor? Aye. Against? Okay.
All right, so I got my report. As Councilman Giacometto mentioned, yes, we were both at the high school scholarship award ceremony. Congratulations to the 2 recipients, Carl Jennings and Paige Santers. And congratulations to all the recipients as well of the scholarships. I attended the spring concert at the high school. My daughter is in 3rd grade at Lincoln School, and the kids did a fantastic job. It was nice to hear the music of the children. While the music program at Lincoln is outstanding, and at our district specifically, other districts are cutting music and arts. We keep it going, and that's very, very important. So thank you. I attended the Memorial Day service and the parade. Fantastic job. Big turnout. It was cool to see everybody walking down the street. I also attended the Girl Scout Court of Award ceremony, and then the concert at the library. Even though I showed up kind of late to that, there was still a fair amount of people out at like 8 o'clock. As Councilman DeLine mentioned, National Trails Day. Thank you to the fire department, first aid. Got the bat box out of my garage. And also the rain garden that Councilman DeLine mentioned. For the folks that don't know what a rain garden is, it basically, you create a depression in the lowest part of your yard where you can direct your downspouts to, instead of it flowing into the street, down to the gutters. It goes there instead, and there's plants and whatnot that will absorb the water. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I am going to need, I'm going to need one closed session on negotiation today. Okay. Today, Mayor? Tonight, yes. Councilman Beggs.
Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad's report for the month of May from Chief Daniel Cantrell. There were 100 calls for the month of May, 62 in Pompton Lakes, 20 in Riverdale, 7 duty calls in Wanacue. There were 54 medical emergencies, 23 trauma injury calls, 3 CPR calls, 5 motor vehicle accident calls, and 8 fire calls. I attended the Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition meeting on May 25th, 2017. There was a discussion on the development of ecological and prevention strategies for e-cigarettes, and Mr. Weiner, that's part of what he was talking about earlier. He talked about strategies for doing this, and that discussion is to continue. I attended the Pompton Lakes Chamber of Commerce bid summer concert on June 8th, sponsored by the Columbia Bank. Featured was Carnaby Street Band playing music from the British invasion era. Concert was very good, good attendance. Next concert will be held on June 22nd, and it's sponsored by the Meridia Capadallo property. Playing is the Shots, featuring members of the Bergen County Firefighters Pipe and Band. If you want a full schedule of the concert series, you can find that by going onto the town's site and then going into the connection with the bid site, or go directly to the bid site, and you should be able to get a series listed. As said before, I attended the National Trails Day dedication, and that was an interesting discussion about the bats, and the young fellow did a very nice job with that. And I also attended the Memorial Day Parade and the service before. As always, the VFW did a wonderful job with it. Bob McGrady, as always, does a good job with the VFW. And let me tell you, I felt that we had a very nice turnout of our residents that day. And that's my report.
Great, thank you. Councilman Branco.
Very quick report, and I'm going to bore you a little bit with some stuff. Commandant McGrady does do a brilliant job, him and his members, for that Memorial Day ceremony, from having representatives from all 5 branches of the U.S. military in uniform, to the conduct of the ceremony that they do, and the 21-gun salute, brilliantly executed, and it makes me very proud to have a VFW like that in our town. Like Council President Riker, I'd also like to say Happy Flag Day. In the hustle and bustle of our everyday lives, we tend to forget the profound symbolism and the importance of Old Glory, so Happy Flag Day. There was no MUA meeting since our last council meeting, so we have nothing to report from MUA. There was also no zoning board meeting since our last council meeting, so we have nothing to report from zoning board. This Saturday on June 10th, I did a little personal work on my home and had to go down to the recycling center to bring a whole bunch of plastic and brush and stuff, and the recycling center was mobbed. And we had a couple of DPW employees at the recycling center that were doing an absolutely brilliant job of helping traffic get in, traffic get out, helping everybody with their stuff. I was very proud of them, and they did a beautiful job. And I want us to recognize that. They did a beautiful job this weekend. We do have a small issue with DPW, Mayor. We have had another loss of a CDL driver, an equipment operator, for more gainful employment elsewhere. I forget which town he went to. But we really do need to seriously consider some replacement CDL drivers at DPW, and that is my report, Mayor.
Okay, just to follow up thank you. A follow-up, if anybody is interested, we have a public notice already that we are looking for DPW laborers and CDL drivers. If you have a CDL license and you're interested in full-time employment, we do have some openings down at our DPW. We also do have some openings for laborers, is that correct or not? Laborers too, full-time, benefits, the whole thing. If interested, please contact the DPW itself or come into Town Hall and fill out an application.
And I forgot, happy birthday, Mayor, sir.
Oh, thank you. Very important, this guy. Professional report.
Happy birthday. Other than that.
That's it? Wow, all right. Thank you. Next.
Everybody received my report by email the other night. I'm just going to go through some of the highlights. About a month or so ago, I received a contact from the Big Apple Circus. They provide a program called the Graham for Loans, and this is, they do an environmental program in the school system. And as you know, we receive community, Clean Communities funding from the state of New Jersey every year. That funding can go toward that type of program, and it's through the whole system, K through 8. So I reached out to my friend Paul Amoroso, and he's going to run this through his wheelhouse, and if possible, we might be doing something with them in the fall, funded through our Clean Communities grant.
Hope it doesn't involve elephants.
No elephants.
Okay, no
Big Apple
elephants.
doesn't have elephants.
That's right, got rid of their elephants.
No, that's Farnham Daily.
But I suppose it's kind of a unique thing to get the environmental aspect back into the school system. You have a whole details there as
That's
part of
good.
the report. Also, during the budget cycle, there was a discussion relative to upgrading our river gauges. So we're going to be adding more river gauges that are have better telemetry than we get access to through the federal government and so forth and so on. So we started the process of dealing with the Army Corps, given the fact that their wonderful piece of equipment on the river affects us dramatically, and for the most part, they really weren't the right place to go. They're not funded for that purpose. Councilor Freelandhuisen's office and Senator Herman's office helped through this process. So they've now said to directing us to go either to the U.S. Geological Survey or go to, when we dealt with in the past, Mike Foley from FEMA. Mike is the gentleman we used to do all of our buyout and demolition. So we're going to go down another road. At the same time, Al's always looking to have our standard, eyeball metal signs that have, so I reached out to Paul Domofrowski from Riverdale, who does that, and he's going to get contact with the surveyor. We're going to get those signs, since we have the old-time gauges available, because we've lost a lot of those over the years. So we're going to work on two-prong approach on that process.
And the cost of those, the other gauges is about $30,000, right? They're not cheap.
Oh, because you're talking real telemetry, not just, 2 foot, 4 foot. You're talking real telemetry that goes on a computer and everything else. It's a whole different process.
Right, so that's why we're looking for someone to fund that.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. We had a pre-construction meeting for our Broadway Avenue project, which will start in a few weeks. We're going to be doing a complete road of Broadway to, a lot of it's actually reconstruction, not just overlay. That road's a mess. We're going to get the core samples. We also had a pre-construction meeting for our Community Development Block Grant, our ADA handicap ramps. That project actually started today, and they believe they can probably get done in about 3 weeks and do those ramps. The chief is working with Sue Scavone from Energy Strategies to apply for a DOJ bulletproof vest program. We get bulletproof vest money from the state on a yearly basis, but the DOJ comes out with their grant on a rolling basis. And what people don't realize is the bulletproof vest is used only have about a 5-year life to them. And so we've now seen a number of vests run out of their lifespan this time, and that helps us avoid the cost, because they run $2,000 a vest.
At least.
Yeah, they're not cheap,
No.
So that's in the process, and that will be into DOJ by the deadline of June 28th. We had a note sale on May 31st, a $1,497,000 note sale, and that was to cover our current bonding plus some of our past bonding that wouldn't go to bond sale yet. when I go down a couple spots later, what's nice about that is that note sale came in at a net rate of 1.44%. So for $1.4 million, you're going to pay $22,000 in interest. That's a pretty good deal.
Free money.
That's a pretty good deal. Some other good news that makes my friend Ron Passaro very happy. He's worked very hard as the chief of the fire department, his fire crew, to try to get our ISO rating down. In the last couple of years, he's missed going from a 5 to a 4 by this much. Well, this year he got his 4. So he's very happy with that, and that helps the insurance ratings for the community, and that's an important thing. And they were in to see Sal Foley, the construction department, so we'll see on that end what our rating is, and then it all helps with the taxpayer and overall dollars out of their pocket. We received notice from the DOT and the state actually that we applied for Grant Avenue, almost a similar type of project as we're doing with Broadway this year, and we received $225,000, almost $250,000, to do that project in next year's capital budget. So that's one of our major road programs, and that will be a substantial amount of money to kind of cover a portion of that. Also, in the PD lobby, there is now a Project Medicine drop box. As you know, it was there for quite a while. We had to go jump through some red tape so I come out and survey the building, make sure we had it in the right spot, make sure there was cameras on it, it's secure. I mean, there's a lot. You think you just put it down and use it. Well, it doesn't work that way. There's always little strings attached where you can unopen the wrapper. So the wrappers aren't open, and then it's being used very highly. I've seen myself walk in the building, people almost every day dropping medicines in the box. So that was very critical, and that's now operational for the residents. Also received a letter from the state police that our friend Al just in the back, our OEM coordinator, they have approved our emergency plan. I think it has a 5-year life, that 5-year FOIA approval. And mentioned Clean Communities, we received our grant for this year of $19,885.
Great. Anybody questions for the administrator? Go ahead.
I saw the trucks that, the last item you have on your list is the tree work, for, JCP&L. The trucks were around today. Do you expect them in the town for weeks, or I wasn't?
Yeah, it's going to be a while. But again, as Randy and I were talking yesterday, there's 2 different vendors. One vendor is actually doing tree work, and one vendor is doing low vegetation work. That's clearing out and that's putting down herbicides and so forth. So you have 2 different groups working.
I saw the tree people today.
Within the J Central right-of-ways. But I think 6 weeks, right? Yeah. 6 weeks, yeah.
Because I got a notice on my door, but it didn't give me a date, didn't give me a day, didn't give me a time.
I think it's very hard for them to determine that based upon where they are and what they're doing. But I think you want to give you the door knock, let you know they're around. That's what we do. We do our own projects. Let them know we're here and have any questions, we'll contact.
And just for the residents' concerns, you will be seeing mosquito spraying starting by the county in the next month or 2 in the areas they normally hit, which is down by Willowfield, Joe Grill, any areas where there's water, standing water. With that being said, residents, if a resident has an abandoned house next to them and it has a pool that's been abandoned, you should let the town know of that. 1, will take care of trying to control any mosquito population that's there, and 2, if it's a hindrance or it's not looking safe, they might ask the owner, whether it be a bank or whoever, to take down that pool. So we have in the past the banks or whoever who owns the homes had to remove some of these pools because it's freestanding water, and we are trying to cut down on the mosquito population here in town. Okay, can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments? Councilman Baranco. Second. Council President Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, Peter Shazat, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. I'd like to propose an idea, kind of ripping off of Ms. Reichert's and Mr. DeLine's talks about the public gardens. I've been a big proponent for a long time of public banking, and I was very happy to hear that one of the governor candidates, Phil Murphy, is actually sponsoring that idea. I'm also very happy to see that some senators have been putting up bills for public job banks for employee-owned companies, and employee-owned companies is my dream in life. And I would love to see nothing more than the A&P become a big aquaponics farm. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But what I would like to see maybe, what I would like to see is, basically, I had mentioned before to Mr. Devine that maybe we should leverage the tech club at the high schools to make some of these public gardens a little more high-tech, auto watering systems using solar power, things along that nature. But I think we can leverage it up so much more than that. I think what we can do is a little back history. Right now, my family, we go up to, we stop and shop on Route 23, but then we drive all the way to Oakland to go to the farmer's market. Now, it's not a traditional farmer's market, it's just a store. I mean, there are local produce, though. I spent $80 on produce this past week alone. So what I would like to see is, instead of me driving to Oakland to do that, and we have plenty of vacant stores, what I would like to see is the high school really take on a mentorship, public-private partnership, where they not have just a public garden, but have like a real high-tech greenhouse. And if we can actually leverage any of those grants to do so, that'd be fantastic. So it keeps kids with jobs, and I used to work on a farm, so I know that working on a farm actually keeps you very mentally sane. And if you want to address any of the smoking and drug issues, working on a farm is actually a very effective way to do that.
Years ago, the high school did have an actual greenhouse back in the back corner there.
We should do that again.
And any ideas, you would have to talk with the high school. Obviously, we can't speak for the high school or the Board of Ed. You'd have to speak with them.
That's fine. I'm definitely proposing these ideas because I'm a bit busy myself, and anybody who wants to pick up this mantle, I'd be happy to support it.
Okay.
I can't run it. Anyway, but it's a good way to occupy empty stores. It's a good way to give kids jobs, or even underemployed residents that would like some part-time work. If we had twice a week a farmer's market for us to buy produce, that'd be fantastic.
We have had a farm.
In the Pompton,
we've had it.
Yes.
The bid.
And A, that only happens during warm weather.
Yes.
And B, those are private companies, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I think we can do a lot better for even, again, giving kids jobs, giving underemployed people more work.
And Riverdale, by the way, does have a market starting last Tuesday. They started, so.
Oh, well, we gotta beat that. Gotta beat that.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah. And I think this will definitely pay for itself. I mean, I think there's no reason that this couldn't pay for itself and actually be profitable. So, thank you.
Okay. It sounds like a good idea. It's, as you kind of glanced over very quickly, we need someone to spearhead that situation. And
school can. They have business clubs, they have bio clubs, they got, I think they have more than enough expertise there to do
so. If you could, I would suggest if you could make one Board of Ed meeting at the school and present that, and then if they're willing to work with it, we'd work with them at that, but someone would have to present that to them.
I can do that.
If you can make it, they meet on Tuesday nights.
Yes, I was actually there last night.
Okay, so there you go. So that's a good point to bring it up in their open session, and then say, look, would the town be willing to partner with you and talk about it, so.
Okay, especially knowing that there's grant money coming in, I think that's a great way to leverage that.
And their FBLA, which is the Future Business Leaders of America, is a very active group at the high school.
Is that one of the clubs?
That's the, when you said
that's
business,
the club, the business club, okay.
business club,
That's
they
what's
refer
called.
to as the FBLA.
Great. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Please step up.
Lisa Ostiano, 444 Midland Avenue. You just reminded me something when you said pools next door, and I have my neighbor that has a sinkhole, and my property's sinking with it, and we have water there. I did come in with the building inspector. I called Ed, he came over. I called MUA. So it didn't seem like there's water underneath that is sinking. No one knows where it's sinking from.
It could be an old septic, I don't know.
We don't know, but the thing is, the owner is a rental home, but I'm worried I have a deck there, and my steps are constantly going toward it, so I need to get rid of those steps.
I would contact the building department and let them know that
Yeah,
you have
which
a
I
concern.
did.
Okay.
I did. I
can
just
follow up
wanted
with that.
to follow up with that, because it is water there also.
Okay.
So
It's on private property, Mayor, I'm sure Sal, director, get private engineer. to-
Yeah, we are not gonna, if it's on, that's right, if it's on
It's
private
private
property.
property,
You have
right.
to get one engineer probably to do that. The borough's not gonna allow it.
And I think he told him, but we're not finding any solution, he's not doing anything. He expects me to fix it. not my property.
Yeah,
It's his
unfortunately,
property.
when it's neighbor against neighbor, then it becomes a whole thing.
A little issue with
Yeah,
that.
it becomes an
So I'll
issue.
stay with the building inspector.
Yeah,
stay with him.
we'll stay in contact, but there's not much we can do. If it's a neighbor's property that someone's living in, you'd have to deal with him because he's living in the, or
Right.
owns it.
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
work
yeah.
together. Well, we're
Right.
willing to work together.
Right, work
He keeps
together.
He keeps saying we need to do it.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make sense, but okay.
Right, doesn't make sense, but anyway. But the other thing I wanted to say, the shooting that happened today, I'm very upset with that. And I'd like to commend the Speaker of the House when he said, if you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us.
No question.
And it was nice to hear that everybody's united today.
At the end of the day, you know, there's no sides when it comes to someone getting
That's
hurt
right.
there, so it
That's
doesn't really
right.
matter.
So
And
it was nice to hear
Good.
you say that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Please step up.
Bruce Weiner, 35 James Terrace, Pompton Lakes. I want to address something that happened here as far, and I looked on the website while I was here. There's no way to know what you're voting on. And yes, you can know there's a resolution and what, a summary of it, but there could be a more detailed part of it in the website. So we could be informed before an ordinance or a rule becomes in effect.
That's not going to happen because we don't have the manpower or the time for someone to put all that information up online. Someone would have to physically do that. You know, we have agendas out in place. You can come early to get an agenda if you'd like.
Even the agendas don't have it.
Well, the agendas is not going to explain a whole, we have our ordinances written. If you'd like to pick that up, you can come and get those at any time after they're done.
I'm a little confused why because with technology the way it is, it's not a lot of manpower,
Well,
so.
it is when you only have one person in an office, it is.
The other reason too, Bruce, is that if it doesn't get up, people rely on that as an issue. So bottom line is that it's on the bulletin board, or backup is on the bulletin board, you can view it on the bulletin
No,
board.
the bulletin board has a very brief summary. I'm talking about the meat and potatoes of it. I'm talking about because you're voting on stuff that's going to affect our lives every day sometimes. And the public has, I don't find the answer, well, we just have one person.
Well, no
And-
town does this, no state
I,
does.
well, that doesn't mean it's right. I don't think it's right.
Well, that's
The
your
way a
opinion.
lot of things
Right,
go.
that's your opinion.
Yeah, yes, it's my opinion. But I would imagine that other people would care other people care about it too. I'm just trying to voice it. And also, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
And happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Happy Father's Day to everybody out there.
Mayor, speaking to that, isn't there any way we could put it even on a bulletin board?
It is on the
The
bulletin.
whole synopsis though, like he's saying.
Well, the whole piece is, yes.
Everything's on it, and I know the coded system, can we look on that too, online? You know, the coded system?
Well, it's the new part of it, it wouldn't be the new part.
New part wouldn't be on there, right?
Yeah, the old parts would be there.
But at least the
If
whole
it's
summary
if
is
it's
up
an
there?
amendment or a change, that wouldn't be in the old.
Right.
The new one would be on the
But
bulletin.
it does have everything, like whatever. They can look at it also on the board?
Right.
Okay, it is on it? All right, I just want to make sure, all right. Okay, as long as the full thing's there, this way you can read it. I don't think that's much to ask, At least put everything on there,
It's not much to ask.
Yeah, no, as long as it's there, that's the main thing, okay.
Anyone else from the
Thank you.
public like to speak? Step up, please. Well, just get up to the microphone so it's recorded.
Carl Roman, 119 Hirschfeld. Initially had one thing I wanted to bring up, but being on the board, I welcome you to come and share the idea. I'm sure we would all want to listen. You mentioned earlier about the Coyote and Butler of Bloomingdale. With our kids just winding down in school, walking, the population's getting large. I'm hoping that maybe we have a plan to kind of stem the population, just in case,
We don't have a plan to stem, we have a plan if someone calls and has a sighting, we send out our animal control person, and if they feel it's a danger, then they will take action.
Yeah.
And that's the
Normally
problem.
that would probably suffice me, but our kids do walk and, You know, all it takes is one to,
Unfortunately, that is
antagonize.
true, yes, but that's also true for Bear and everything else.
All right, so I'm hoping, without any coming back, that maybe we could consider, if the population does become a concern before the fall, we could probably look into maybe displacing them somewhere else.
We can't just catch them, we're not allowed to just catch them and
You're not allowed to trap, you're not allowed to trap wild animals.
I only say because I remember up in New York State when I spent some time, you know, a child did get hurt by a coyote.
Oh, yeah, they can be
So it is a
dangerous.
concern for me.
Yeah, and this is, and it actually made news because it is the first recorded capture of a dog in this area. So
Yeah.
once the state changes their guidelines, then we can make action, but we can't just go out and catch animals and bring them over to Butler and drop them off there.
So we'll have more of a presence then with the police, if, you know, they'll be a lot quicker.
I'm sure Butler wouldn't like
All
that.
right.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? That's it.
Yeah, Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. You were talking about summer camp. You didn't give a date when it started?
Let's see if she gave me a date. Okay, go ahead, keep going, I'll find that date for you.
Oh, we gotta look it up?
I gotta look it up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, here it is. Okay, let's see if she put it in.
June 26th.
Very soon.
June 26th is when summer camp.
Yeah, she didn't give me the date. June 26th, is that what it is?
That's the Monday.
It's on our
after
website.
school ends.
It's on our website, there you go. June 26th for 1 month.
All right, because Shade Tree's gonna be doing some planting in Hirschfield. I already talked it over with Mrs. Lennon and Mr. Merrill as far as location for the certain trees. Being a low retired carpenter, I take Mrs. Vennon's advice seriously as to where to place what variety of tree. And she made the suggestions, and that's what we're gonna do, so.
Is it in the playground area?
Yes,
All right,
one
then-
will be.
Then I would say you should reach out to Karen Murphy and let her know in advance that you'll be in that area working. So I should close that off.
Okay, well, we can fence it off, we can,
Well,
I'll
yeah,
talk to her.
Talk to her, yeah, we'll work it out with her, but we definitely don't want kids involved in when you're working there.
Well, you know where the big oak fell the last time?
Yeah.
Fell right between the benches, fell into the new plantings that they
Right.
put. We're looking to put it right there, so.
Okay.
It's only gonna be a small tree, it won't even touch the ceiling.
Okay, well, you know, here's an idea. If you'd like to talk to Karen about it and make
Yeah.
a little educational presentation, you know, while the kids are there,
My daughter will be.
they would love to watch you plant the tree and get involved, so.
Well, it needs some power equipment involved.
Yeah, but maybe we can fence
My
them off.
my
back.
shovel days are over, Mr. Mayor. I have to say that. For Mr. Boyle, pre-construction meeting on Broadway. I take my advice from experts, John Linson, our arborist, who said that we could do some tree work along with the road work. Any way that I can get in some kind of meeting that we can discuss any of the trees along Broadway?
At this point in time, that's kind of past due at this time, let's look at a future project. No, I would discuss it with you, that got lost in the shuffle.
Because we had talked about this last year.
And I don't, I forgot about it, so, that's the next project.
We are all human. Also, Mr. Mayor, we had the discussion on Carlo Field, when you talked about the parking.
Yes.
Down there where the houses were torn down. You kind of made a semi-promise to shade tree, that you would plant some trees down there. Is that still on the?
It is, but of course, like everything in the state, once, we have to ask the state's permission to do it, and they are giving us trouble with what we're gonna have to do down there.
Even the planting of trees?
The planting of trees, if we do what we're gonna say we're gonna do with the parking, then we will be planting trees there. If for some reason we can't park there, then we won't be planting trees there. The idea with the trees was to stop people from crossing over to get off the street without going back out to the parking lot.
That was your idea. Our idea was that it's a floodway and needs more trees.
That's your idea, not my idea.
Well, we all have to work together, Mr. Mayor.
Right. So the idea at the end of the day was that's the reason we were putting trees in.
Because it is supposed to go back to a natural state, is that correct?
Well, natural state can be taken in different contexts. Grass is natural state.
That's true. So is trees. So is shrubs.
And if we end up putting grass and parking, then we will look at putting trees in there, yes.
Okay. And it is your birthday today, huh?
No, yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Oh, it's Donald Trump's birthday today, huh?
Yeah, no comment.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Councilman Giacoletto, all in favor? Aye. Against? Privilege of the floor.
I have a real quick
Go
thing. During our conversations with the police and then also some of the comments that Councilman Deline made, there was reference to the bicycling and I was wondering if you had any success with the coupons again. There seemed to be for the helmets. Would you mind? And you're going to see Greg Smith tomorrow at the bid meeting. Would you let him know that there's been a request for more coupons for so the police have them
The free ice cream cup,
before or during the summertime? Thank you.
Anybody else, Ben?
Just want to express my condolences to Barbara Shashan, the town registrar, for the passing of her mother, and Sergeant Ryan Shashan's grandmother.
Yes, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. I also have one privilege to report very quickly. I had a student, an 11-year-old student named Alex Prezelinski, who lives over on Ringwood Avenue. She's very concerned that the foxes we see in town don't have names, so she would like to name them Hope and Dylan. I said I can't officially do that, but I would bring it up in privileges for and say we will name them Hope and Dylan unofficially. So that's what we're doing. We're naming them Hope and Dylan. So it's fine. Okay. So that's who I am. Any other privilege on the floor?
Is that Red Fox?
Yes, there's 2 foxes. All right, thank you, public, for showing, and we have a closed session, so. Motion to go to closed session. Council President Riker, second Councilman Giaconetti.
You gotta turn it on.
We have a motion to go back into open session. Councilman Giaconetti was first, Council President Riker was second. In closed session, we talked about negotiation of properties. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Councilman Franco.